So, we're going to get started with introductions.
Hi, I am KBV Cosplay. I have been cosplaying since 2003. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Oshi. I've been cosplaying since 2002.
And I am Lady Ava Cosplay, and I have been cosplaying since 2001. I win. And also, we are members of the cosplay staff this weekend, so yay. And I actually am your cosplay head for this weekend, so hello everyone. Hello. You all look fabulous. So, let's just dive right in. I mean,
what even is cosplay?
What is cosplay? It's one of those things where we just don't know. It's a mystery. I dress like this every day.
And you look fabulous every day.
So, cosplay is derived from the term costume and play, which I can't see the... Yeah, thank you. Here, you start, Bob. Go ahead. You know the whole backstory. You're the history buff, so please go.
Cosplay is a portmanteau of costume and play, coined by Nobuyuki Takahashi in 1983 after he visited, I think it was San Diego Comic-Con?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Yeah. And this is actually the first time I actually saw the real article. Cool.
Yeah. So that little picture over there in the corner is actually the actual article that he wrote in regards to his trip to San Diego Comic-Con that year.
Because Japan loves their portmanteau, costume pure, cosplay. So the term became popularized in Japan, but cosplay itself has a long history in the United States. It started here.
America!
USA. The first cosplayers,
which we actually have a photo of here. If you look to the side, we have a photo of our first cosplayer.
I'm forgetting. Morojo and Fori. They debuted at WorldCon, the world's first science fiction convention, in 1939. It was his, as they coined it, the Futura costume from imaginary movies, sci-fi movies that started in the 20s.
And also
one more note on that. So Morojo made the costume. Fori modeled it. So Morojo, remember that name. She is the mother of cosplay. Fori then went on to become like a massive person in sci-fi and all. Forrest J. Ackerman is his actual name. Huge collector. Passed away sadly in the radio was causing feedback.
Oh, here, I'll take that.
Passed away sadly in 2008. But he was a huge community person for keeping cosplay and sparking cosplay for decades. Star Trek conventions,
we owe a lot
everything,
to those two people
to anime.
For being brave enough to get dressed up strangely and go out in public.
Just come up with, I'm going to go to this convention and dress up like something from one of these movies. Why not?
So, back in 2004, the global market of for 2014, excuse me, I read well. The actual costume and cosplay community has just, as you can tell, skyrocketed. I mean, we have places you can buy costumes, we have TV shows about cosplayers show about your sporting events doing stuff. I mean, they're everywhere. Oh my God, it's all over the place. Sweet Celestia. However, the industry of cosplay itself, revenue is about $11.7 billion, that's with a B, billion dollars, and is expected to grow up to an additional $1.1 billion by next year. So, yeah. So think about it. From the humble beginnings to a billion-dollar industry has become cosplay. Who knew, right? Dressing up is like a nerdy character, like your character going to your costume being like, I'm awesome with me, I'm so cute, and then you just realize the grand scheme of things. We are all we are is dust in the wind. Okay. But cosplay itself is not just limited to anime. Of course,
it started in sci-fi.
The explosion of sci-fi, and I think some of us, if we're not dating ourselves here, with the original Toonami block, like after school at 4 o'clock on Cartoon Network, they had things like Sailor Moon, Dragon Ball Z, Gundam Wing. I'm totally dating myself. But
if you want to get deep, you look at Star Trek conventions in the 70s, or Dragon Con even.
Star Wars conventions even. But cosplay has its own subsections. I mean, furries.
Hey, this is a Pokemon cosplay. This is that. Once upon a time, I was like that.
Some subgenres like steampunk and sci-fi and fantasy, and just in general fandom culture. I've met more of my friends have dressed up as book characters, like that aren't even films. I definitely debated doing, a good version of someone from the Maze Runner and not that crappy movie. We'll talk about that later.
And then there's me that mostly does pro wrestling costumes.
Yeah, she does all pro wrestling costumes. Like that's her thing. She is like a wizard with spandex. It's crazy. But so, why do people cosplay? Why? What do you guys think? Besides what we just put up there, thanks. Yes.
To escape reality, pretty much.
Yes. Escapism. Yes.
I believe it's just to show how much they love and appreciate the character they're dressing up as.
Exactly. Yes.
To put themselves into a character so that at conventions like this, they don't feel so socially awkward.
Yes. All right. So, ways to express your fandom. As you can tell, obviously, we're slightly embarrassed about this, but none of us are dressed as ponies. Oops.
Okay.
Whoopsie daisy.
Later.
That's okay.
That's later.
It's okay, we forgive you.
Oh, well, thank you. But the reason that we decided to do Final Fantasy 15, I think this is like the 6th or 7th time we've worn these costumes because we're just that obsessed with this game, and we love to be these particular characters. Like, they bros. We loved. I have a deep obsession with this game, but we're not going to talk about that. That's for another panel another time.
I've made like a dozen Pokemon fursuits. Just fursuits, not counting hoodies and gajinkas and all that.
Because he loves them Pokemons. But other people do it to show off the skill of crafting itself. Cosplay, I always like to say, is a very expressive art form.
It's a creative outlet.
It's a creative outlet. I mean, I can tell you right now, we've been doing this since the early 2000s, and none of us are professional cosplayers. Right off the bat. This guy here, he's a web developer. Okay?
I work retail.
You work retail. And I work at an art school, so, it kind of works out.
You work in the lab, though, so...
I do work in a lab, but still. But it's just a way to exercise a skill set that you might have never even known you had until you started trying to do cosplay. I never knew that I could sew until I decided to start cosplaying, which, by the way, this guy right here is the one who showed me how to use a sewing machine, which is crazy. Okay.
Usually says the way around.
But the thing, too, is that cosplay is just fun. It's fun to get dressed up and sweat like crazy in the middle of Baltimore in July when you're wearing leather is a terrible life decision. But still, it's fun. Fun.
When the heat index is over 100 degrees.
So how do I get started? That's the number one question a lot of people ask about cosplay. Well, where do I start? I'm not really sure. Yeah, excited. Excited. So we're going to share with you guys something about how we all start somewhere. So the first one is KBV.
That's me.
The first photo is one of her very first cosplays, which is
literally the first costume I sewed myself.
yeah. So that's Jolteon, her little Jolteon, and then is her most recent cosplay, which is
Alexa Bliss, yeah,
yes,
from the WWE.
From the WWE. Next is Oshi. Look how baby-faced he looks. It's adorable.
Why don't shave?
His leg doesn't shave. So he did Cypher as one of his first cosplays that he sewed, and then the one next to it is a Dreadworm monk gear from Final Fantasy XIV.
I like Final Fantasy.
He loves Final Fantasy.
Like Pokemon, like Final Fantasy, I'm a simple man.
And then there's me. My first costume was Yuna from Final Fantasy X that I sewed myself. And then the one next to it is a Gajinka version of Pepita from the film Pixar's Coco. So we all start somewhere, and we all don't start off as these crazy, amazing cosplayers. We all have to start somewhere. So...
Very good. Look at the gunblade, solid wood. Anyway.
We're really impressed with ourselves. Okay. So, how do I cosplay?
Honestly, I do go back, look through my old stuff, and I'm like, damn, I did a good job on this.
Yeah, I don't do that. Okay, so actually, you want to hear a fun story? So, fun. Can we go back or? So, I'm going to point out something that materials in cosplay can come from anywhere. Okay? So, that picture of me in my little Yuna costume with the big bell cuffs and everything, they're really pretty and gradient dyed and they look lovely. Let me tell you a story.
Oh.
So, there I am. I picked out a fabric that was light and airy and pretty, but it could not hold dye. I had to dip dye them to get a gradient. They didn't hold dye. What was I going to do? I was trying everything from Brit dye to Kool-Aid to whatever I could think of. And I'm getting frustrated, and I'm standing there, I'm like, this is so pointless. And my mother comes up to me, and she puts a bottle next to me on the table, and she goes, try this. If it doesn't work, we'll go get you new fabric. I tried it. Worked like a charm. The gradient came out beautiful. Everything was amazing. I couldn't even believe what I had used. Ladies and gentlemen, those sleeves were dyed with Pepto-Bismol.
Woo!
I was minty for about a week, but you never know where the best things from cosplay will come from. Ladies and gentlemen, Pepto-Bismol.
And
To be fair, now we have polyester dye.
I was young!
We
didn't know!
We could not get commercial or retail polyester dye back then.
We're old.
It was just cotton Brit dye.
Alright, we're done. So, how do I cosplay? Everyone see that disclaimer? There is no wrong way to cosplay. At all. Never. Nope.
nada.
So we have actually 3 wonderful examples of how to do the cosplay thing. First off is buying your costume, or closet cosplay, or mass-produced. This is a mass-produced costume, and I don't care because it's awesome.
And comfy. And has pockets.
Honestly, nowadays...
Pockets.
Whoa.
Nowadays, you can get great quality costumes, even just off Amazon.
Amazon's wig game has surprisingly
Amazon
improved.
wig.
Easy
Amazon
cosplay,
wig.
big costumes is really good. You just, it's amazing. Like you could.
I'm
We had to
jealous
make
of
everything
all-
back then, right?
I'm so jealous of people
We
who
had
start
Party
cosplay.
City or Make It.
Right? Back in my day. We didn't
Back
have no
in my day.
Aria, no
Next
Epic.
up, commission a seamstress to custom make your costume.
I bought my vest off of a friend that was selling hers.
Commissions are a slightly step above a mass-produced costume because it will be custom sized to you, and you can be in constant communication with your maker who's going to be doing it. Obviously, I'm going to say as a disclaimer, please do your research on commissioners if they have good reviews and things like that, because sometimes they can take you over the hurdles, which is never fun. But you will be guaranteed to get a really gorgeous piece. Like this Prompto vest is pretty much spot on from the game. It's those are all handmade custom patches from the game that the seamstress made herself. Yep. So just throwing that out there. And we all are dipper at some point in our life. DIY, aka do it yourself. So you go to the fabric store, you look at the fabric, you bring home the fabric. It's like adopting something. You bring it home, you take care of it, you feed it thread,
Pre-wash it.
you pre-wash it, you take care of it, and then it betrays you when you cry a lot and you hit the sewing machine and you light it on fire and you chuck it out the window, but it's worth it. I'm really making it sound like making your costume sucks. I'm sorry.
It does.
There you go.
But it's worth it.
It's a labor of love.
There is...
It's the labor of love.
I have a story I do like to tell about making a costume, and it's a very important story, and I always like to share it during this panel, so please bear with me. I've been sewing for many, many years now, and I have one costume that I made. It is, anybody here know the film The Book of Life? Yes? La Muerte from The Book of Life is a costume I made. And it was 4 months of blood, sweat, and tears, and crazy patterning, and making candles look like they're levitating on my skirt with a really big hat. But when I got to the convention and I finally got to wear it, and having so many people just stop me and say that this costume is beautiful, it's incredible. I sat in 4 hours of makeup for this thing. I mean, custom contacts, the whole shebang. But when I had people tell me in person that I've been following your progress on Facebook, and this costume just looks so stunning in person, it's probably the best feeling. I made the costume for me, but to see other people be happy because of something I made is a very amazing and powerful thing. To create something from nothing is a very powerful thing. I encourage every cosplayer at some point to try and make your own costume. It doesn't have to be A-grade, amazing, first thing out of the... If you saw my unit costume up close, oh my God, no, no.
I still have that Joel Ava costume. I'm like, oh gosh.
But the thing about that too is, with La Muerte, I went back to the hotel room after I got out of it. It was a trying experience to wear that thing. And then he asked me, he's like, hey, have you looked at your phone at all? And my phone was just blowing up with people on, like, because apparently somebody shared it on, like, Tumblr or Instagram, and it was blowing up the internet. And the next day, when I went to check my messages on, I think, Tumblr or something like that. What? I think it was Twitter. Tumblr. It was Tumblr. I didn't have an Instagram yet. Twitter. Yeah, Twitter. Yeah. But on Twitter, I had a private message from the director of the film who saw my costume, and he said, my wife and I greatly appreciate your costume. It is a stunning piece of work, and you did an amazing job. And I'm sitting there in the hotel room, like, and I just start crying because the costume and that movie itself means the world to me. And when you cosplay something with that much passion, it doesn't matter if it comes out amazing, if it doesn't come out that great. If you cosplay with a passion for your art form, you are going to be able to go infinity and beyond kind of situation. Like, you'll be able to create things because you keep pushing yourself to get better. And that's why I always give this disclaimer. I always ask you to try. Try everything. I also cosplay Gazelle, so we're going to move on now. Okay, so we're going to move on to unique costuming. Now, unique costuming is going to be this dude's little corner of the universe right now. So, fursuits, armor, and more. Oshi.
So fursuits. There's something about just making a costume that covers you completely and turns you into the character. It's hot, it's sweaty, it's a pain in the butt.
Watch the language.
I caught myself. But it's fun. You get to be a big fluffy animal or something.
I can vouch for this. I actually tried fursuiting at BronyCon. It's a lot of fun.
So fursuiting, you think, of course, of the full suit, the head to toe covering, but you can have a half suit, which is usually digit grade legs, or just legs in general, arm sleeves, the head. Fursuit starts with the head. If it doesn't have the head, it's not fursuit. It's a mess inside right now.
I'll ban a white this. Are you kidding me?
And then worn with the shirt, so it's a little cooler for the wearer. Sometimes you'll catch, like, they have the fur top and pants, but they're usually regular pants, I've noticed. And then there's partials, where bare minimum you got the head, hands, and a tail, maybe arm sleeves, maybe feet paws. Casual for an anthro character like that that's going to wear normal clothes normally. Most often with My Little Pony cosplay, you're going to find full suits because it's such a unique, consistent style that you don't see ponies in clothes, really. So you're going to see a full pony.
Don't tell Rarity that, please. She'll freak out.
Fair. In terms of getting fursuits, the commission. So, the fursuit business is communism. We are the means of production. It is a enclosed market that is just the artist. You can be one of the artists. If you want to try making a fursuit, it is advanced costuming for sure. But matrices.net, she has been making tutorials for fursuiting since about 2006. That's where I started when I wanted to make a head. She had a great tutorial. She has everything from making the heads, parenting the body, making hands. Go ahead.
Sorry.
We're done.
That is where I will direct anybody who wants to make a fursuit. Matrices.net.
Did I also mention that this is totally lined in Pokeball fabric? Because that's kind of adorable. Sorry.
So as I touched...
We're going to go to all questions at the end,
Yeah.
so sorry.
As I touched with pony suits, they have a consistent style. They have... they're easier to make, but harder to wear, because you don't have to worry about these things called fingers. You just have hoof ends. And it makes it a little easier to make when you don't have to deal with hand balls. But harder to wear, so you have to think about having escapes for your hands so you can actually handle stuff, or make sure you have a handler with you to handle stuff for you. Handle. If you want to get started with pony suits, just try making a head. I have some great news for you. There's a pattern out there on DeviantArt. You just trace that onto foam, assemble it, and then cover it with fur or fleece or something, and you have a pony head. Put some eyes in. Toki Riedel, they're a Japanese maker. Yeah, I can't recommend this pattern enough. I've used it like 4 times so far.
He's made some really cool pony costumes.
All of the Japanese pony suits in the picture there, they are all using their pattern because it's that universal. It comes out with a great shape. They also have a bodysuit pattern that I think a lot of these suits also use. I don't recommend it for beginners. It's a very complex pattern. It doesn't make much sense to somebody who has been sewing garments for a decade. It has a pretty great shape, and I'll be wearing this suit later tonight.
The Japanese like to complicate things apparently.
So yeah, that's my one panel quick rundown of fursuiting.
Oh, and by the way, the pony suit over there in the corner of the, if you see that, that's the one that he will actually be wearing this weekend.
I just said that.
I'm repeating it!
It's important.
It's been a long weekend already, and it's only Friday.
So yeah, there's my fursuit rundown for...
Moving on
to armor.
Armor. We get a lot of questions. Okay, so there's Tony Stark. Yeah, it's Tony Stark time. So armor. We get a lot of questions about people who want to start armor or making armor costumes and whatnot. There are multiple ways that you can do armor. Now, a lot of people will sit there and be like, oh my gosh, well, I have to use thermoplastic because that's what everybody uses. It's like what I always see. I always see people using Warbler and all this other stuff. Hold your horses, literally. Material choices is dependent really on the types of armor. So if you want a quick, light, easy to transport armor set, craft foam or EVA foam
Is your friend.
is your friend.
There's jigsaw puzzle formats that you can get for garages and stuff.
Or
That's
even
EVA foam.
at Joann's, they have a craft foam section, and they have it in all different, like, they're thinner and not as thick as the big EVA foam.
I prefer like details.
Yeah, the detail stuff. I actually prefer to use the thinner foam because it's a lot less work in the end run. But,
Sanding department with the...
now who here has heard of Warbler? Wow, okay, fantastic. For those who don't know, Warbler is big plastic sheets that come in different colors. They have black and red and clear and the original like Pantone, whatever that is.
Tan.
The original is I think a PETG plastic pellets melted in and blended with like a flour or wood filler to give it more consistency.
The origination of Warbler was actually
German flooring.
German flooring
Like
is actually where Warbler comes
intermediate
from.
layer.
However, when you take a piece of Warbler and you take a heat gun, I'm going to stress this, a heat gun is what they used to paint.
Not a hairdryer.
Not a hairdryer, a heat gun, which is what they used to peel paint off walls and things like that. You can buy it at Home Depot.
Like
it's
20
bucks, really cheap. What happens is that when you heat it with this heat gun, it starts to become soft and malleable, and you can shape it into any shape you need. Once it cools, it stays that way, which is great. It's a wonderful thing if you want to create armor pieces, like shoulder pieces. Don't really recommend it for bracers, or head pieces.
Which you'll see me in tomorrow.
Cough, cough. It's a great plastic. However, on a day like today, not so good.
Don't leave it in the car.
Don't leave it in the car. I had a friend leave their Warbler armor in the car before Otakon, which was used to be here, and when they took it out, it was kind of like, soup armor? So, not a good idea.
To be fair, when you're preparing Warbler armor, you're not going to use just the thermoplastic. You're going to...
Craft foam.
Jeremy Craft foam.
Yeah, use craft foam and then cover it for a nice, hard, solid armor.
Craft foam is like the new duct tape of cosplay. It's in
You see some amazing stuff come out of
the little pieces on my Noctis gloves are craft foam to get that shape on them. So, I mean, it can be used in just about anything, like a detail on a costume. I can tell you right now, my Tempest Shadow armor is all craft foam from Joann's. which I will be.
If you want to see some really good EVA film work, look up Evil Ted on YouTube.
Yes, Evil Ted.
He's great.
The other
Great
person that I would
tutorials.
also recommend if you look for the good tutorials is KBV Cosplay.
She's basically the originator of Warbler, because
Yeah.
she's from Germany. She found, like, hey, there's a weird thermoplastic.
She sells books with wonderful patterns and tutorials. You can go on her YouTube channel and she'll walk you through the process. And yet she is from Germany. But they do have subtitles on the videos so you can understand what she's saying. And she's very detailed.
Aren't they mostly English?
They're mostly in English.
Very broken English, but they have subtitles in case you can't understand
Yeah,
broken
there's
English.
so many links for.
And not to mention, if anything, if you get nothing out of this video, just as a side note, she has 2 adorable corgis that are in like all of her videos, so at least you'll get something out of the deal.
Doggos.
Wings.
Doggos.
Ta-da. All right, so with wings for pony cosplays, once again, craft foam is your friend. I'm gonna shut up, phone, get out of here. Craft foam, once again, is probably my go-to for wings. And you can make a quick, easy, cheap pair of wings for about under 20 bucks if you follow these instructions.
I was gonna say, honestly, like,
Not even
less
20,
than
not
10.
even, like,
Yeah,
less
less
than
than
10 even. You buy, I don't know why it's doing that. You buy some foamy, and you can find patterns for pony wings online. I know DeviantArt has one, and I'm not remembering the person who has it, but they're all over the place on DeviantArt. What I actually did when I created my pattern for them is I actually found a good shot of Rainbow Dash's wings, and I blew up a still of them and traced it to the size that I needed. So another option that you can take off a piece of paper and then trace onto the foam and then cut. The thing after that I'd recommend, and this is actually something that I love to do, because I see a lot of people with wings that have that like elastic that goes around the arms, and it can get kind of uncomfortable after a while. I love it. Like, yes, girl, yes. But it can get uncomfortable after a while. So what I usually do with my wings is I get copper wire from Home Depot that you can buy by the foot, I believe.
Yeah.
And you only need
Just
about...
sell like 20-foot coils now too. It's nice. If you need
Well,
some
if you're
bulk.
making like
If you
a
need
ton
some
of
bulk.
them, sure.
I use it for
But what you
tails.
can do then is that you bend it into almost a kind of a V shape where it goes like this and then down into a big U shape, okay? And what you'll do is you'll take some hot glue and you'll glue your wings onto the edge of that copper wire. And that U shape actually gets fed down the back of your shirt. And so you have your wings that won't come out, they won't move, and they can still have some type of motion to them, but they'll still be comfortable to wear. And what I usually do is I actually wrap the copper wire in something soft like a fleece or something so it's comfortable on my back because it is copper wire after all.
Another method that I've actually used for my cadence wings, usually later I learned from a friend, is if you take clear bra straps, so that way it's not seen, and then if you get it the right shape, it sits kind of on your shoulder where like a wing would be, so it looks a little more natural. Again, not seen, you could easily like stays around your arm, or if you have like a dress strap or something, you can very easily pin it in the back, and then that way it's you don't have an elastic line.
Broken.
I didn't do it.
Doctor, what'd you do?
I didn't touch it. You saw it.
Please hold while we're experiencing technical difficulties.
You use too many GIFs.
I have no regrets.
GIFs.
Yeah.
Choosy devs, choose GIFs.
It's hard.
All I think of is that episode of Gravity Falls with Giffany. Giffany?
Yes.
Or is it pronounced Giffany? I'm entirely
Oh
sure.
my God.
And you try turning it off and back on again?
Did you unplug it? Wait for
I'm just laughing because he's like, well, use my laptop. We won't have any issues with it.
Your laptop wouldn't even animate the GIF.
Shut up. My laptop is pink and adorable. Has stickers.
Everything's better with stickers.
Right. While we're waiting.
Any more cool stories?
Actually, you know what? I'm going to discuss something really quickly that is something that we do bring up on occasion in this panel. When doing other types of cosplay, which is back in another panel.
There we go.
Oh, we're back on. Never mind.
We're back.
There we go.
Okay, well, let's move on. We're done with it.
Move along.
The beauty of cosplay. I know Rarity would be so thrilled. Because we're... Whatever. Next slide, go. Fantastic wigs and where to find them. I like puns. Alright, so... Wigs are awesome. I have a collection of about over 150 wigs because I love wigs.
Oh, wow.
Don't judge me.
Such wow.
I don't have an issue.
Drawers packed.
You mean the 5 drawers I have filled
I
with
have bookcases full of wigs in my
I have
basement.
one big. Jeez.
You open up my closet, there's just heads with wigs.
Then again, I also have like a giant shelf full of fursuit heads.
Yeah, don't judge. That shelf is creepy, okay? They stare at you. It's crazy. All right. So with wigs in general, we usually like to aim. I always will recommend the big ones of Arda wigs. I believe. Have most of you heard of Arda? Have you ever heard of Arda wigs at all? Anybody? Yeah, what up over there? All right. Arda, they're great. They have fast shipping, great customer service, and they're really usually on point with getting your stuff to you super fast.
And they tend to be a bit larger cut than a lot of wigs, which is great for me.
They're made for American heads.
And they have a lot of really great, unique styles. Like you can get lace fronts from them that aren't over $100, and it's wonderful.
And they have undercut wigs.
Yeah, they just introduced undercut wigs, which is, you know, fabulous on so many levels. Epic Cosplay is another company that I strongly recommend. The reason that I recommend Epic is that the wigs themselves are almost thicker than the Arda wigs, which gives you more freedom to do a lot more styling, I find.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to be doing a spiked wig of any kind whatsoever, I usually like to go with Epic.
And they tend not to tangle as much as Ardas.
They tend not to tangle as much. And then the hidden gems of Amazon, like I said, this is Amazon. What up? Okay.
I like tomorrow's Amazon.
Honestly, they're all coming from the same factories in China. It doesn't matter.
Let's be honest here.
Now, Arda and Epic actually get like specified their own brands of wigs made, so that's why they're good to go
And this
to.
is why, once again, I'm going to say I'm jealous, because back in my day, when we wanted to order wigs, we had to order. We either had Party City,
Which was shiny and bright and you couldn't style.
miserable.
Then you had Cypress, which was having to go through a shopping service to order from Japan, and it was expensive, but they last. I still have like 2 I ordered.
I have a Cypress wig that I have from I think 2012, and it goes all the way down past my butt, and it is still lovely. But
Amphigory,
Amphigory,
somehow still around.
and then Katie Blair too.
Katie Blair.
We're going off on a tangent.
Yeah.
Okay, but
I have another wig site for pony wigs, especially they have pony themed wigs, like well, vinyl scratch there.
5 wits. Yeah.
They're great. And their wigs don't really tangle much either.
So, this is my opinion. Please don't take offense. I prefer to use wigs over natural hair. Now, before you shoot the messenger, let me explain why. I do use my natural hair for certain costumes. For example, when I troop as Rey for the Rebel Legion, I will use my natural hair. For this situation, I prefer wigs. And the reason for that is when I'm at conventions, a lot of the time, for example, tomorrow I'm going to be Tempest Shadow in the morning and then Twilight later in the day. I can't have my hair be Tempest Shadow and then switch over to Twilight because my poor hair would fall out from all the dye that I'd have to use. I also find that wigs tend to give you more of that cartoony feel.
More volume than you'd probably get on your own hair.
So, I mean, not everybody, but you can do a lot with wigs. And wigs, this is all just plastic. This is fun plastic. You can heat it. You can do things to it as long as it says that it's heat resistant. Yes. You can style it all crazy like, and then you can strip it down and do it for something else. Like I had a costume from Castlevania, and I ended up using that costume wig base for La Muerte. And then it got used for another one, and then another one. And wigs, if you take care of them, they will last you for years. So, keep them nice. Keep them nice brush, talk nice to them. Makeup. Disclaimer in big bold print. You do not need high-end makeup to do a good makeup look.
What's makeup?
Hello there.
Show off. For the other people who are fursuit inclined, ever since the invention of the HD camera, makeup... Get out of here, you stupid... I'm gonna... Since the invention of the HD camera, makeup in cosplay has become almost... like required. I don't want to say required. That sounds like a terrible thing to say. I know that I could not get away with without wearing makeup. So let me explain. I am dressed as a dude, obviously. However, I am wearing makeup, and I will tell you right now, I have a primer. I have a moisturizer. Then I go for my concealer. Then I did a liquid foundation. Then I did a powder foundation. Then I did contouring along my jawline. And I actually am wearing a liner because he's a very pretty man. But it also helps the eyes pop a bit more with the liner. It sounds super scary and it sounds super complicated, so let me put the makeup line idea at ease real quick. What I'm going to recommend, who here has never worn makeup for a costume? All right, fantastic. Mostly guys, okay. I don't judge. I definitely did my Ignis up in a whole face of makeup.
He doesn't even cosplay.
Doesn't even go here. But with makeup can help accentuate your looks. Like this is a very plain face of makeup. But if you looked at my pupita, I had full, big cat eye liner with crazy markings on my face. In La Muerte, I was covered head to toe in body paint from my hands, all my face with intricate detail work. I mean, and it was sparkly, so I looked like glitter and sparkling sugar, and it was wonderful. But it can really help. I don't want to say it will not lessen your costume if you're not wearing makeup. It will just take it up another notch. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, even just if you just do basic foundation, it just really helps like even out your skin tone, takes away any like shine, especially like in the summer right now. Like just especially like if you're doing photography with flash as well, like it just helps your overall look.
And I basically just listed everything. Now, if you've never had makeup done, and I recommend this to guys and girls, if you're unsure of what makeup you want to use. If you go to a Clinique counter or Sephora or Ulta, they can actually color match you. They'll sit down and have an artist talk to you about what would be good for your skin type, because not all makeup is created equal. But they will help you pick out something that's going to help your skin, because I know I'm very prone to breakouts. So I don't want to use something that's super heavy on my skin and filled with oil, because then my skin's going to break out. For people with drier skin, they might want to use that, but for me, not so much. And they'll sit down and they'll pick out stuff that will help. I've gone into Sephora with pictures of with characters being like, what do you recommend? Yep. And the best part is that the people at Sephora, which you think they'll be like, oh, I have people be like, let's talk. Especially when I went in when I was doing Widowmaker, I was looking for an eyeliner of some kind that would stick out on like this crazy blue tone skin she has. And I was like, I'm looking for something that would work with this. She's like, I main Widowmaker, let's go. You'd be surprised, nerds are everywhere. Cosplay photography. It's you. I had to, I'm sorry. So I'm gonna let you talk about working with photographers because you are a photographer.
And a cosplayer.
And a cosplayer. So it works on both levels. Go for it, dear. So
I can't read.
So communication.
Again, like we were talking about earlier with conventions, definitely do your research when it comes to booking a photographer. You want somebody that will give you your photos back in a timely fashion and stuff. Some people do things for free, some do pay. Usually you get, just because somebody charges low doesn't mean they aren't talented, but put your research into it. Know what you're getting.
Just good hobbyists that want to.
Exactly, they're doing it for fun, and so like a lot of times how they learn is a great piece of conventions. There are people that want photos taken.
Yeah. If you have questions.
Yeah, if you have questions, always ask. Communication is key with your photographer. And usually if you're going to have a shoot, try to think of some poses. Know your character well. Because a photographer isn't always going to know every character, and they may not always have the time to like look them up and know.
However,
What to do.
a good photographer will research.
True, very true. But don't always assume.
But don't
always assume. Be prepared.
I've been very fortunate that when I try to book a photographer for a photo shoot, I tend to go with the photographers that will take the time and be like, so what the character is, what series is from, and I've had photographers sit down and watch the show that the character's from, or look up footage from the game my character's from, just so they can get an idea of what would be a good location to shoot, what would be a good pose for this, how can I shoot this character to emphasize the costume that the cosplayer is wearing. I mean, I had for Pepita, my photographer, the movie totally wasn't out yet, so he found a copy and he downloaded the digital version, actually, that's what it was, and he sat down and he watched the film 4 times. Because the character I did is not a humanized character, so we were trying to figure out ways to make a human version of the character work. So, like, for example, his assistant and this guy right here took my cape, which looked like wings, and they flared it out and created a big look where I'm standing there and the wings are all flared out, so it works with the character. The photographer, if they're really passionate about their hobby and their work, they'll do the research. So keep that in mind when you're trying to book a photographer, because that's something cosplayers will go like crazy for.
And at the same time, have fun.
Yeah, right.
Half the time when we're taking photos, we'll just be goofing around.
Some of our best photos are like the derpiest photos.
Oh my gosh.
Let me tell you.
We did a shoot at MagFest this year, which I feel like was majority shenanigans, but they were the best. There were piggyback rides involved. There was getting chased around with chocobos. There was dabbing. There was definitely dabbing.
For some reason, these costumes turned into DabCon, so.
DabCon.
Bros.
You would put RuPaul on the panel I'm talking about. You know me well.
You know I know you so well.
Posing and modeling.
Once again, for even a cosplayer, research is so important about characters. Sometimes cosplayers will make an outfit because they think it looks pretty and not do the research behind it. So it'll be like somebody comes, takes a photo, hey, remember seeing this character in episode blah in this season doing this? And they're just like, I liked the dress.
Which is a totally valid reason to cosplay.
I'm guilty of this. I cosplayed Elizabeth from BioShock Infinite about 1.5 years before the game came out. I had no shame. I love BioShock, okay?
Yeah. Oh, find your light.
Find your light.
It sounds like
If
super
you're
inspirational, doesn't it?
I also do some photography, but if literally know where your lighting source is when somebody stops you to take a photo, and try to make sure it's coming down on you. Do not stand in front of a window and have yourself completely silhouetted.
If you have like these crazy convention lights and things like that, when you're using your body to pose for a character, especially something like all in black,
Know where your light source is.
find where the light source is coming from and try to angle your head so you can find the light and get the best pose possible. This is way too feminine for office, but whatever.
But yeah, if your photographer doesn't, position yourself to get a better photo for them. Yeah.
And if it's a good photographer you're working with, they'll know how to pose you in the best way with the lights and
And
whatnot.
I'm also just talking about hall shots.
Yes.
Oh yeah, and also don't block traffic.
Okay, so the last thing I always like to discuss is after you do your research, you've watched your show, you've played your video game, you've done the whole thing, posing in front of a mirror at home is the best way to practice before you get to the convention. So if somebody says, hey, can I get a photo? You're not sitting there going, whenever you're ready.
Dude.
Like I said, goes back to the cosplay being a passion thing. If you really love your character, you'll sit down, you'll do the research, you'll figure something out in order to make it just work. Like, for example, with these two schmucks of a character, they're best friends. So when, we never get to do this together, I'm so excited. So, even careful. So basically, that's accurate. Prompto is a huge, if we're talking accurate, completely accurate to the game because no self-control. Moving on.
Move along.
All right. So the next slide here.
The not so happy slide.
I hate doing this slide, I really do. I feel like it's something we should never have to discuss ever, but unfortunately we do. We're gonna power through this really quickly so we can have some questions. Who knows what cosplay does not equal consent is? Raise your hand.
Good.
Less. What else can I say? I mean,
They're the people, not characters.
yep, cosplayers are just people in costume. They're not the actual physical embodiment of a character. I mean, they're not the actual, you know what I'm talking about. No man looks this good in real life.
Just because they are...
Dressed like them.
Just because they're dressed like your favorite character doesn't mean you gain any extra access to them as you would outside the convention.
Anything that is illegal outside of a convention event is illegal inside a convention event.
I know we are big, happy families, so maybe personal bubbles aren't as important, but personal bubbles are still important.
Yes. For example, I have GAD. I have horrific anxiety disorder. I do not do well in large crowds. I get very anxious very quickly, and I have to retreat and just take a minute.
I know how you feel.
Cosplay has been a wonderful outlet for this, but once again, when I was in La Muerte, I was having a lot of photos taken. But the thing was, is the crowd started getting closer and closer and closer, and I started to freak out in the costume. So it took him and like 2 other handlers to be like, everybody needs to take about 5 steps back. You good. But the thing here that I always like to stress is that if you want a hug, if you want physical contact with another cosplayer, always ask. Because sometimes cosplayers, because of their costumes, can't really hug you. Like, let's say...
I was about to bring up, fursuiting does not equal consent in that same manner. Yes,
I know
we
they're
love,
big
we
and
love
fluffy.
hugs, but please ask.
Yeah, someone might have
Vision
impaired
may be limited.
vision. They might have delicate pieces on their
I have tunnel vision
costumes.
here, I can't see to the side.
I know they look like big plushies, but you know...
Sometimes are.
You don't have to think like that.
Anyway. But yes, do not touch a cosplayer without their consent. That is a big thing personally for me. Like I said, you don't know what's going on with that particular cosplayer. If you try to touch them, it could set something off. They could get very upset. Maybe they're tired. Maybe they have a headache. You never know. So always ask. And if they say no, don't be offended. It might just be their thing of like, I'm sorry, but I'll wave to you. So, okay, you just talked about that.
Speak with respect.
Yes.
Just because they're cosplaying a character you don't like doesn't mean you can go off on them.
Yeah, fuzzy.
I have fuzzy?
Really?
That's a big thing I hear. That just if it's a character they don't like, they get harassed.
I have been told multiple times in certain costumes, like for example, I did a Lise costume from Final Fantasy XIV, and she's a monk-like character, and she's really like a very pretty little character that I love to death. And I had someone take a photo of my costume, saying, "Your Lise costume is great, but she's not old." Where were you? Where was I? I don't know. Where were you?
How old are they?
They were older than me, that's for darn sure.
Shade.
I had some very choice words that I can't repeat because this is a family event.
Yeah.
No, I really can't.
Think of the children.
Think of it. Won't someone please think of the children? Online harassment is still harassment. It's rabid in the cosplay community. I don't know if some of you are old enough to remember the dark days of 4chan. I love the heavy side.
I was a CGL original. That board was helpful and decent before like a certain point that it just went.
I know that point, but I'm not going to say what it is.
Oh, you mean Facebook pages?
No. That was this was pre-Facebook pages because there was a certain individual that hit the internet and then it all went downhill after that. I'm not going to name names because I'm an adult and I'm a classy individual.
That's for the After Dark panel.
All right.
Wow.
Moving on. Bullying, blah, blah, blah. Okay, last thing I'm going to add and then we're going to go to questions. Big bold print on the screens, ladies and gentlemen. What does it say? Repeat after me.
No cosplayer is better than anyone else.
Just because somebody's better at marketing themselves online doesn't mean they're a better cosplayer.
Seen some pretty ugly personalities from some pretty big name cosplayers. Just because they look pretty and know how to use social media doesn't mean that they're good.
Not all of them. A lot of them are great people.
A lot of them are wonderful
We
people,
love them.
but then
There are some people not to be named.
we should really do a cosplay after dark panel.
Yes.
Yes.
James, questions!
And now we open the floor.
Now we open the floor. Who has questions for us? Please.
In our last 10 minutes.
Yes, sir.
I wanted to add something to your armor.
Sure.
Punish props is also a
Yes.
tutorial.
They're great.
I love how all three of us went,
Punish
yes.
Props is a fantastic EVA, Warblood, thermoplastic, casting and molding too. They are fantastic to look up for armor and props.
Are they fantastic?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, sir.
This is not really a question. It's more of a comment. Like there's you brought up hugging cosplayers and fursuiters. Can you elaborate on glomping?
There's a word many younger to the scene may not recognize.
Don't you
Why did
dare.
that come back? I thought that was gone.
No, it's still a thing.
It's still it is still a
went
thing,
away,
very
the
much
action
so.
did not.
Glomping is a word for a
Like running tackle.
tackle hug.
Blind tackle hug.
Do not do that.
No. So let's say, for example, I'm sitting
Ask for
here.
hugs, never glomp.
Paul, would you like to demonstrate? what I'm
Uh-oh,
talking?
uh-oh.
So
That's glomping.
that's glomping. It's scary, first and foremost, to the cosplayer. If they don't know who you are, I will pile drive somebody who touches me like that, and I don't know who they are.
I was actually at the Asker Draconic Witch panel
I remember.
last year,
Yeah.
and there was an incident where someone ran up on stage and hugged whoever was playing in Discord.
Get off the Discord.
Not advised.
I just caught another ditto.
Dude, we're in the middle of a panel. Yes. Yeah.
So the zigzagoon right now, that's a ditto.
Shut up!
What kind of armor or what material should you use for like bigger, like more big plates of armor besides foam?
So you're going to still be using foam. It's sort of going to be something like just creating a bigger pattern. Using that half-inch thick EVA floor mat foam is really good for stuff like that, and then covering it, because you can heat mold the EVA foam itself to give it a little more curve. Has anybody heard of Pepakura?
Yeah.
2, that's it. Wow.
Okay.
3. So Pepakura is basically taking 3D models and unwrapping them into a flat pattern. And it is great for armor or even fursuit heads. I've done some for like Pokemon models. You can find Pepakura armor files out there that you can just use as a base or scale to the size that you need. And it's great for getting those larger shapes because they can be a little more, you need a little more like darting and curves going on there.
Anybody else? Let's see, you in the back over there. You.
So, I was wondering what are some techniques for somebody like me who's prone to sweat a lot? Just for like a big, heavy, like a big, heavy armor suit, that sort of costume.
So
Cooling vests. Yes, you have one.
no, I don't have my cooling vest on, but
Woo,
Under Armour. Under Armour. Always wear a base layer. Under Armour, this is the heat gear meant for wicking away sweat. And actually, I think this has like some weird silver pattern in there that like reflects heat back on you. There's something. It keeps you cool. It wicks your sweat away, and you
We must
use
science
your sweat
this.
to help keep you cool. In addition to that, there are cooling vests that Easy Cooldown is a very well-known brand, but you can get the gel packs otherwise. PCM gel is what's in those. Unlike freezer packs or something, it gets to about like 60 degrees and stays there for about 4 hours. So it's not going to give you freezer burn or anything. It just keeps you cool. That's really, those are the big ones. Make sure you have a base layer. take breaks. We have a cosplay lounge for a reason.
And if you
Stay
can,
hydrated.
if you can
Stay
build one of those,
hydrated.
if you can build one of those camel packs into your
Yeah.
costume,
Yeah.
they'll be great. All right, we have time for one more. I'm gonna say you right there with the pink hair.
And we'll take questions
We
outside.
can take that
Outside, yeah.
I was gonna actually add on to his, what about makeup? That's my problem here.
Oh, for sweating and stuff like that? Okay, so with makeup, the way that I will keep like this fabulous look going for multiple hours is actually Urban Decay makes this wonderful setting spray.
Up all-nighter.
Up all-nighter. And it locks your makeup in place for like 12 hours,
Yeah.
I think, or something like that. And it will keep it from sweating off and moving around. The other thing too is a
Primer.
primer will also keep your makeup in place as well. And also, Kat Von D makes a setting powder in case you don't want to spray your face. Makes a great locking setting powder. Also, anything that's used for special effects makeup. What's the brand?
Ben 9?
Ben 9.
Ben 9.
Ceiling powder.
Yep. Yeah. That stuff is meant for movie sets and special effect makeup and everything else. That's the other one.
Maron.
Yeah, Maron. That stuff, when you put it on, it does not come off. Like, I sit there and I'm like trying to scrub my makeup off. I'm usually there for about 20 minutes. I'm like, why is the eyeliner still coming off? I don't understand.
Oh, gosh.
But it will help because when you're sweating, that makeup, especially the special effect ones, are meant to almost absorb your sweat so you won't sweat off the makeup because it's used to keep prosthetics and things on your face as well. So it is really great in high temperatures. And as long as you, like, sometimes I reapply my setting stuff just in case throughout the day. I know like Urban Decay makes little versions of that setting spray that you can take with you. So always just a little quick reapply and whatnot. Now, unfortunately we're out of time, but I do want to close this panel with one quick thing for you guys. We brought up in the panel today that cosplay is an art form. It's a universal way of showing your fandom, but at the same time, I want you to remember something very important. Cosplay within itself is a community.
Yes.
Everyone here is here because you were interested in learning about cosplay, you're a cosplayer yourself, you've been doing it for years, you've been doing it for the first time this weekend, who knows? But I want you to remember that cosplay brings people together. I met these two people because of cosplay, and I'm going to share a really fun story. Come here, dear. This is my boyfriend, by the way. So we met each other at one of our very first conventions, and he's basically been one of my partners in crime since. So you can meet some really wonderful people in this community if you let yourself just enjoy. Don't worry about Facebook likes. Don't worry about that social media following. Don't worry about what's trending, what's cool. But do whatever makes you happy. I mean, I met this girl over here at BronyCon, actually.
2012.
2012, what up? We just dated ourselves again. But please, for me, just remember, cosplay is supposed to be a fun, wonderful hobby, and I want you all to just embrace the fun aspect of it.
Fun?
Fun?
Fun? Fun? Fun? Fun?
So, with that being said, thank you everyone for attending this panel, and enjoy the rest of your BronyCon. We will also be having another panel on Sunday called Cosplay and Parenting FAQ.
Oh, sweet.
And you should all attend the Grand Galloping Gal on Saturday, I'm just saying.
Yes.
It's gonna be wild.
Plug! Plug!